Hello, welcome to another video. Today is about the
朋友是一个坚韧不拔的纪录片，
I said about the
韧不拔的纪录片，在香港这座城
the
市的设置，主演钱和乐。
God damn it, never mind. Now the
朋友是一个坚韧
is a special kind of tank. It's a medium tank at tier 8 that wields a 122mm gun, which has insane aim time. It's really, really good. And you don't find these kind of tanks a lot, mainly because at that tier, a 122mm usually means that it's a heavy tank or a tank destroyer, but in this case it's not. And having that mobility along with that gun is really nice. You can really make some good snapshots. You can do peekaboom shots. It kind of forces you to do a peekaboom gameplay. So if you like that gameplay, if you like to hide and pull off sneaky shots when the enemy's not looking for just a split second, you don't even need that much time to aim anyway, unless you have some complications with your right hand or left hand, whatever you use your mouse on. But otherwise, the T-34-3 is perfect for those kind of sneaky players. But just don't be alone with it, because it isn't gonna help, mainly because of the reload time. And this also applies to the T-34-2, which is more of an honorable mention because it's basically the same tank, but then on paper the T-34-2 performs better in mobility and camouflage, and dispersion on movement and things like that. But in a practical sense, the T-34-3 is way better, just because it has the angles, more armor. I want to address the turret armor of this thing. Even though the T-34-2 has 200mm of turret armor, it has like a vertical, the rounded turret kind of smooths out, straightens out near the turret ring, and that's what kind of gets it down, because you can penetrate it because it's a 90-degree surface. And I find that with medium tanks, with Pramo, it doesn't have to be Pramo. Even in my Lorraine 40T, I could just penetrate the turret without any problem. And the enemy T-34s would be confused in why I was able to penetrate them with standard shells. So that's something you need to be careful about, but not in the T-34-3. The T-34-3 has a more rounded design, so it is harder to actually penetrate the turret, though you still can. And I'll discuss things that you shouldn't do in it. First of all, do not be alone, because the reload is very long, and if you are found being alone, I'm pretty sure that anyone with some sort of brain function, well, actually, no, I'm sorry. Anyone that is good at the game will actually be able to, identify that you're alone, and they will rush you, and you will die. And it almost doesn't really matter what tank they're in, as long as they have a better DPM than you, which is a lot of tanks in that tier. And you also have to be careful of your penetration values, which is 175 for standard AP without the calibrated shells. So I do recommend taking calibrated shells to improve that armor piercing value. However, there is that heat shell, which in Chinese tanks, the heat shell is renowned for its penetration, and it can easily go through heavy tanks and other tanks that are heavily armored that you have trouble going through, and it really does help in some tricky situations. So I really do recommend taking the calibrated shells for the equipment. And because your aim time is already good, you can either take the improved aim time to make it even better, or get the supercharger and the refined gun to get better penetration value and to get more accuracy along with that aim time. I would take the supercharger and the aim time, not necessarily the dispersion because it wouldn't make it much better, but supercharger aim time is a perfect setup for me. It both maintains penetration over distance plus way better snapshot. You don't have to stay out there that long, way shorter than a lot of tanks, and you can just go back into cover after you shoot. And the reload is over 10 seconds, which allows you to reset your camo, and then you can come back out. There's something really good about that. And finally, comparing this to similar tanks with similar guns and characteristics, such as the T-34, the Chimera, and the M4A1 Revelaris, which I figure that they all three of them are more or less the same gameplay as the T-34-3. They kind of peekaboo. I mean, they don't have too much armor. Well, the Chimera has troll armor, but it's different. And compared to these tanks on paper, it is apart from the T-44, the Chimera and the Revelaris are more or less the better than the T-34-3, whereas the T-44 is a little bit worse in terms of DPM and aim time, and of course credit efficiency. And this tank does make credits quite well. If you're wondering, if you want to make credits in this tank, it's totally practical for it. But I really do think that there are other tanks that do it way better at this tier, such as the Luva and the Lorraine 40T, which is by far a more fun tank to play, mainly because of how satisfactory it gives you when you win. When you destroy a tank, it really is nice. And well, honestly, it's not for everyone. So again, as I said before, the T-34-3 is for people who like to sneak around, not necessarily flank, but just to support your heavy tanks, or just go aggressive medium flank with at least another person, because you can't be alone in this tank. It's virtually impossible. And yeah, so peekaboom, because aim time, you can just drive out, aim, and then shoot with such ease and success that I don't think they will have a chance to fire back at you unless they are anticipating that you're coming from that direction again after you are unspotted. So that's something to pay attention to. So yeah, if you have that playstyle, I think this tank is for you. And I did try playing an aggressive playstyle, but that didn't work out too well, mainly because of the reload. The reload is the only problem that this thing has. Otherwise, it is close to perfect. And yes, as I said, compared to other tanks, it is not as good, but it does really well in its it does well at its job. That's what I'm trying to say. So anyway, that is the end of the T-34-3. I really do hope that I don't get cancelled after this video. And yeah, good day.